Hey everybody, and welcome to the first lesson of the Jazz University series for guitar at guitarlessons365.com. This is the first in many lessons that will cover just about all elements and styles of jazz music and just start you from scratch. Today we're going to talk about single note soloing in jazz. We're going to start this format and then we're going to work our way into chords and progressions and chord melody and styles and everything, and some rhythmic stuff. So let's get right into it. I'm expecting that you have already read the tutorial PDF that goes with this lesson. You can find that at guitarlessons365.com in the Jazz Guitar University lesson page. It's just in the lessons archive. You'll see the page when you get to the site. So go to guitarlessons365.com, download that, read it, and then all the chords, arpeggios, and little scales I'm going to show you here today are going to be on that paper. So I'm going to kind of go through this relatively quickly because of that. Now, when you get to the site and you learn all this stuff, we're going to have a backing track on there for you to practice to as well. And that backing track is basically going to use these chords, basic chord forms that I show you at the very beginning of the lesson, which is just a standard E major here, E6, E major 7, and E add 9. Now, this is not a chord, this section of the course is not dealing with chords really, but if you memorize those chord shapes, it helps you memorize the arpeggio shapes that are coming up next, and that's the big thing that we want to get together. Arpeggios basically give you chord tones. So if you have a major 7th arpeggio, all it's giving you is all the chord tones within a major 7th chord. And those are really valuable to use in improvising. So memorize those shapes, and when you get the backing track, the backing track is going to be built using just those E chords. It's going to be this, some kind of a jazzy type feeling chord progression, just using E chords. So then you can practice these, your arpeggio and the patterns that I give you, and then make up your own runs, and then also the scales. And you start combining this. I give some examples that I'm going to go through real quick here, and then you're going to do your own and just do it over that backing track. All right, so the first arpeggio we have is a major 7th arpeggio. And if you look at the arpeggio boxes, this is all within region 1. We're going to do this across 7 regions. So we're just talking about this major chord family, group 1, which you'll understand after reading that paper, and the region 1. Okay? So memorize that chord shape, and the numbers that you'll see in the boxes are telling you the scale degree that each one of those notes is, and that's very valuable. So it's a major 7th chord is just 1, 3, 5, and 7 of the scale. Well, 1, 3, 5, 7, 1, 3, 5. Very valuable to know all that. So know where all those scale degrees are at. All right, and then we have the first run. Now I'm just using notes. I created that run using the notes of the major 7th arpeggio, or chord tones, whatever you want to call it. And that's what I want you to practice. Just practice it in 8th notes, and then you can practice these things in like kind of a swing jazz 8th notes. Just kind of practice it in like kind of a jazzy feel, or any kind of jazzy feel you want, and do that over the backing tracks. And then create your own major 7th run. And the next we have the major 6, which is we're going to be using the 1, 3, 5, and 6 tones. And here's that arpeggio. And then a cool little run. All right. The major add 9 is just a 1, 3, 5. It's a major chord with that 9th added onto it. So here's what that arpeggio would be. And then a little run you can do. You notice I'm doing a lot of rolling in here. So we have rolling exercises and lessons on the site. I believe pretty much in the beginner and intermediate sections if you need some help with that. like I say, play these in straight eighth notes and in that kind of swing jazz eighths like I did a minute ago. Then we have a major 9. The major 9 arpeggio is just a 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. So we have this. Now the larger the arpeggio, the more notes in the scale we usually have, we do have, and it sounds more like a scale. It's just a straight out scale sometimes. But here is, it's really valuable just to memorize, just go through these arpeggios and not necessarily memorizing all these runs or whatever, but really getting down, because you'll see that the 7th and the 5 and the 3, they always happen in the same spot in all these forms. That's what's valuable to get down, really knowing what you're doing. So here's a little run using the major 9 arpeggio. All right, major 6/9 is a major 6 chord, 1, 3, 5, 6, with an added 9th. And that arpeggio is this. It's actually a straight pentatonic scale. And then a little run with it. All right, let's go to the major 13th. Major 13th in this case is going to be a 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 13. There's no 11 in there. There's no 11 in any of the group 1 chords. The reason why that is you can't have an 11th, a standard 11th in a major chord with a third, with a major chord, because the major chord has a third, and the 11th is the same as the 4th, and they're a half step apart and they will clash. That's why you don't have a chord that has a major third in it and an 11th in it. All right, so if you're curious about that, but the 11th chords are coming in the next group. So here we go. We have this. And then a little run. All right, a major 7/6 is just a major 7th chord, 1, 3, 5, 7, with the 6th in it, which could be the 13th as well. So here's that arpeggio. And then a little run. All right, and then we have our 2 scales that work over these chords. In this chord group, we have a major scale and a minor, and a Lydian scale, or mode. If you remember from how to get your major scales in the key of E major, I'm going to base this off of G sharp here, which is a shape built from the 3rd. In the prerequisite studies, you'll see the major scale studies, and you'll know how to do this after that. All 3 notes per string. And then we have a little run there that uses the major scale with chord tones, and that's really what these solos are going to be. And then we have Lydian. Now Lydian mode is going to be based off of this, we want E Lydian, so we figure out what key that's in, and that's in the key of B major. So then thinking of your B major scales off of this G region, once again, go back to your visualizing modes lessons, all the prerequisite lessons for this stuff. And it's the shape built off the 6th off of G sharp. All right, and then we have a cool little line. All right, so practice these with the backing track. Just get them down, just really work on these studies and get these chord tones down and make up a lot of licks over the backing track. And I will see you guys with Region 2 very soon. Have fun. Bye-bye.